Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba says goodbye to the United States with a clear message. He has approved an emergency economic package that sends a loud and clear message to the White House. We don't want to know anything more about you. Trump's tariff policies have not only harmed Japanese industries but have also triggered a reaction that even Trump couldn't have anticipated. As Trump's tariffs continue to suffocate Japanese companies, Japan responds with an economic package not only aimed at mitigating the damage but also showing Washington that economic pressures can have real costs. Tokyo's patience has run out, and the play is clear: economic independence at any cost. The dismantling of an alliance that seemed solid since the post-World War II era has finally arrived. Japan, the Asian giant that has always been one of the United States' most loyal and strategically important allies in Asia, has taken a monumental step in the opposite direction, and they've done it with style. In response to the fury of Trump's tariffs, Japan has implemented an economic measure that puts its country above all, once again leaving Washington with the sense of having lost its way in foreign policy. Japan's emergency measures package is not only aimed at easing internal economic tensions, but also showing the world that, in times of crisis, a trusted ally can decide that it is no longer one. In a surprising move, Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, known for his pragmatic but straightforward approach, led a crucial meeting with his cabinet and key industry members. The proposal, which focuses on stabilizing Japan's economy in the face of the fierce pressure from Trump's tariffs, includes measures designed to protect the country's most vulnerable industries, particularly automotive and steel. The message is clear: if the United States thinks Japan will bow to its protectionist policies, it is completely mistaken. This is a direct blow to the Trump administration, which thought it could manipulate Tokyo without consequences. Measures such as a reduction of 10 yen per liter of gasoline and diesel are not only an attempt to ease growing inflationary pressure within Japan, but the package also reinforces soft loans to small and medium-sized businesses. This is a declaration of economic independence, a way in which Japan is taking control of its destiny without relying on a partner that is no longer trustworthy. This way, small businesses, the heart of Japan's economy, are now seen as the first line of defense against an economic war that Washington is waging not only against Beijing, but also against its own allies. Regarding energy subsidies and the review of the electricity system, it is evident that Japan has no intention of continuing to pay the price for the erratic foreign policy of a U.S. president who does not understand the importance of well-established trade relationships. Meanwhile, Ryosei Akasawa, Japan's Minister for Economic Rehabilitation, is preparing to fly to Washington next week, not to surrender to Trump's demands but to continue negotiations on an agreement that has been plagued by disagreements. Among the U.S. demands, the lament that Japan does not import enough American cars and agricultural products is only a small part of a much bigger puzzle. Trump's protectionism is damaging the relationship, and Japan has reached a point where it must consider what to do in order not to remain a puppet of an administration that doesn't even understand the value of a long-term economic relationship. However, the tensions are not a zero-sum game. Japan, conscious of the ongoing trade war between China and the U.S., has chosen to soften the situation by proposing an increase in the import of U.S. agricultural products like soybeans and corn, which China no longer buys due to Trump's policies. This seemingly goodwill gesture is an attempt to balance its interests while preventing Washington from continuing its tariff threats. In a subtle move, Japan is strategically absorbing the surpluses that China is no longer buying, showing the U.S. that Japan remains a relevant trade player, even though it no longer intends to depend on it. What Japan is doing is clear. It is telling Washington that it will no longer accept economic blackmail or the political manipulation that has characterized relations between both countries since the end of World War II. The Japanese economy, once one of the largest in the world and still dominant in the Asian region, is no longer willing to bend to the unstoppable tide of tariffs imposed by a U.S. administration more interested in attacking its own allies than in consolidating constructive diplomatic relations. As Trump and his administration insist on dismantling any strategic alliance that does not align with their selfish and protectionist agenda, Japan, with the prudence it is known for, responds with an economic package that not only seeks internal stabilization, but also strengthens its economic sovereignty. The message from Ishiba and his team is clear. This is not just about protecting key industries. It's about regaining control over a destiny that cannot be left in the hands of an erratic president who prioritizes short-term interests over long-term ties. As Japan moves forward with these measures, criticism of Trump continues to grow, not only in the political arena, but also in the economic sector. Large Japanese corporations that have invested billions of dollars in the United States economy and created countless jobs on American soil are now under absurd pressure to continue cooperating with an administration that doesn't understand the nature of global interdependence. In defense, Ishiba rightly reminded that Japanese companies have been a fundamental pillar for the United States economy, despite Trump's intentions to restore American greatness through protectionist measures. The reality is that Japanese companies remain some of the largest investors in the United States, something Washington seems to overlook. As all of this unfolds, Akasawa is preparing for the next round in Washington, but it will not be the same negotiation as before. Japan is playing a much longer, more strategic game, and the Trump administration knows it. The fact that Japan has begun to seek alternatives to balance its trade relations with the United States, without giving up its own interests, speaks to a country no longer willing to tolerate the impositions of a partner that has lost all sense of diplomacy. They are no longer allies in the traditional sense of the word. Japan has learned its lesson. As the trade war intensifies, Japan makes it clear that alliances are not eternal, and loyalty has limits when the foreign policy of a country, like that of the United States, becomes erratic and selfish. Its closest allies will begin to question whether it is worth continuing to be part of the same team. Japan has not only taken pragmatic economic measures, but also sent a clear political message to Washington. We are no longer unconditional allies. We are no longer your pawns. Japan is back at the bargaining table, and it will not be manipulated by the tactics of a United States government that has abandoned any kind of strategic reasoning. Japan's decision to step away from its long-standing alliance with the United States marks a significant shift in global geopolitics. The tariff war, initiated by Donald Trump, has pushed Japan to reevaluate its relationship with Washington, leading to bold economic measures aimed at stabilizing its economy and asserting its independence. Through its strategic move, Japan has made it clear that it will no longer bow to United States economic pressure. By focusing on domestic industries and forging new paths in international trade, Japan is positioning itself to regain control over its future, without the need for American influence. Now it's your turn. If you found this analysis revealing, leave us a comment with your opinion on Japan's bold move. Do you think Japan's response will set a precedent for other nations facing similar pressures? How might this shift affect United States global influence? Subscribe if you haven't already, because we'll continue to follow this story as it evolves. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next video, where we'll break down the consequences of Japan's economic shift and explore how it will impact United States-China relations. And if you want to dive deeper into Japan's strategic decisions, check out the video on screen. It'll give you more insight into this growing geopolitical tension.